Hey, what's up? Greetings and salutations, cohort. I hope everyone's doing okay. I know it's been a minute since I have bombarded you with your instructor in video form, but I'm still here. I'm still alive. Survived the smoke. I hope everyone else came out of the wildfire situation in okay shape. I just wanted to check in a bit because I haven't posted a video yet for assignment number 2. And now that it is Tuesday, that assignment is due in a week. So I just thought it would be a good time to check in. Everyone should be sort of geared up for it right now. I don't know, so some of you folks get out on it right away. Other times I know that the homework doesn't get it done until the week, even though there's 2 weeks for assignment, sometimes it doesn't get done until the week before. Hopefully not the night before. But point being, there's still time to just briefly talk over assignment number 2, which I have titled The Art of Conversation. So once again, I just want to reiterate, because even though I know I said this a bunch about assignment number 1, it bears repeating that the topics of each assignment are an opportunity for you to just concentrate on that aspect of comic making. You don't need to construct a new scene in your thesis to fit any of my assignments. The most important thing is that you are handing in 6 to 10 pages of raw, loose pencils for your thesis work. That's always at the top of the list. Second from that is, hey, does the scene that I chose from my thesis, does it afford me an opportunity to flex this particular part of comics making that an assignment might be calling for? And in this case, it should be really simple, because you just have to choose a non-silent scene in your comic, because the thing that I'm really curious for you to concentrate on in assignment number 2 is your dialogue, and not even just balloon placement, just the use of text on the page, be that your dialogue, your captions, your sound effects, anything like that. I do think, and it's all important, the 2 things that I'm really looking for on a technical level, what I want you to be aware of is how important the placement of text and balloons instructs the reader how to read dialogue and how their eye moves across the page. Very often, I've run into students who have a really lovely piece of visual storytelling, but their balloons are moving people's eyes to the wrong places, and not really sort of helping with the flow of reading. So really try to think of, I know sometimes, I've had it in my art classes, thinking about composition, about how your eye moves across the page based on the forms in the art, or like the prevailing big shapes or big movements on the page, gestures of characters and the like. But just as important are the placement of text and how a reader's eye is going to sort of connect the dots. And we want them to connect the dots in the right way. And that can be more challenging than maybe it seems when I'm just saying it. You just assume that panel 1, you read, panel 2, but it can get tricky. And I'm sure you've all encountered some comics where maybe you read things not in the right order, or you were a bit confused. Another thing to really keep in mind, and I have this as the sort of first, the sort of first note in the assignment, is that this is a chance to sharpen your script writing. That doesn't mean I want to see any script pages. It just means that you might even be working from a script. You might even have like a script, and now you're giving me loose pencils. But maybe some of your dialogue maybe it doesn't really fit in the panel. Maybe it's a bit much, or maybe you just realize that it can use some fine tuning. One thing that I think would be very, very helpful for everyone on every assignment, when you're at the stage where you've loosely ballooned in your comic and you have the dialogue, read it aloud. Read it aloud and listen. You can even just record on your phone. Listen to the natural pauses that like if you're sort of recounting, you're reading a bit of dialogue between characters, or someone has like a monologue, but there are gaps and pauses that someone would naturally say speaking. That is a hint for you in your ballooning. Sometimes people jam tons of sentences into one balloon where there would be a natural pause. And I know I even have in this, this is an example from a Brian Bendis Daredevil comic that I put in the assignment. But, and Bendis is known for being super wordy, and he is. But like some ballooning like that you can see Ben Urich as a reporter, they're just like, those aren't just shapes on a page. When you're reading it, just rape and murder everyone he knows, including me, ellipsis. Burn Nelson and Murdoch down to the ground. And that would be that. And it never happened. Never. The only one who seemed to know that would happen was Matt. So those are pretty natural gaps. Those are pretty natural pauses for someone who has like a longer bit of dialogue, but it's not all crunched into like a big box, right? Those are not good on the eyes. So that's something to keep in mind to really think about when you're ballooning. And as I mentioned, I think I mentioned, the idea of like a Council of Elrond scene. It doesn't literally need to be a bunch of, fucking 15 characters sitting around having a debate. But, if you have a scene with at least a couple characters having a conversation, that would be ideal in terms of trying to maybe get that sort of back and forth. But also I don't want to discount the idea of someone has like a monologue, or if there's like excessive captioning, if this is like a narrated scene, but you really need to pay attention to how the voice of the author is worked into the composition of the panels, in text boxes, in free-floating text. It all plays a really important role. I also have a note about character acting because, of course, you're drawing, so it's not just all about your word balloons. And I think I've mentioned this in maybe one of my earlier orientations, or maybe in some of the small group meetings that I did at the beginning of the term. But if you have that experience, also similarly to how I'm asking you to read your work aloud and listen to the pauses, you can also act it out. You can do what I'm doing right now. You can make a little video of yourself performing your comic on your phone. You don't need to post it on YouTube, though. You can if you want. I'd watch it. But the idea being that you can, just when you're reading, even if you're not trying to act, if you were, reading your character's dialogue around, you'll sort of, I always find that I do this, you naturally act. You naturally pick up some of the intonation of the character, and you might see some of your own facial expressions, and it could give you cues to like, maybe what you want to draw, maybe what fits. And that's not to say that you need to copy your own expressions, but really think about how, and so many of you are great with character acting, right? But really think about maybe how your character acting really plays into and has a direct relationship to maybe what that character's saying or what someone else is saying to them, right? So you can get like really good, clear reactions. Yeah, so those are, I mean, I thought that the assignment was pretty self-explanatory, but it doesn't hurt to repeat. It doesn't hurt to have a little reminder. So that's 6 to 10 pages, and that's due a week from now. So, or really, I'll be checking it, a week from tomorrow. But if you get them in by next Tuesday night. And then finally, I don't want to talk for too much longer. There's that second thesis worksheet assignment. I've gotten back to all of you about your focus sentence. Some of those were really good. Some of you have continued to correspond with me about focus sentences. I've already gotten like second and third drafts from some people who really are digging into that assignment, and that's great. And we can continue to sort of fine tune and talk about that one-on-one. You're not required to, because there's always going to be a next assignment. And at the end of the term for our final assignment, you're eventually going to post revised drafts of all of the writing assignments with your final pages. And it will be in a place where we can all look at them. But yeah, just to note, and again, this isn't going to be due for you until October 13th. So this is not imperative, and maybe I'll make another short video about it later. But the XY is a little bit more involved than the focus sentence. And this one is really, really trying to focus into what draws a reader in and keeps them in your story, and what sets it apart, and how can you find an angle on the type of story you're telling to really sort of ensure that a reader invests. It's tricky. All of these assignments, like all of the writing assignments, like again, this one is probably only like 2 or 3 sentences. The first one was 1 sentence. This one's like 2 or 3 sentences. The next one after that will be a bit longer. So they get a little bit more involved, and they sort of build off of one another. I don't want you to get like psyched out about it. It's an exercise, right? Much like the work that we're doing now in those pencils. It is a bit of work that is not meant to be a final definitive statement in its first draft. It is a exercise to get your brain moving. And this is one thing I noticed from a lot of you in terms of the focus sentence. Some of you were writing them your first drafts were kind of like a log line. And now writing a good log line is a valuable skill. Writing a focus sentence could maybe indicate to you some notes to hit when you're writing a log line for your book, but it's different. Focus sentence, the XY, they're not for the crowd at the comic book store or Barnes & Noble who are looking at your book. It's not for them to read. It's for you to read and for other creators like you to read to help you really sort of synthesize and get a clear vision of your work. Is that valuable to pass on to readers? Absolutely. But you don't need to phrase it in such a way that it sounds like snappy sales lingo. And so just keep that in mind too when you're moving through the other exercises, right? They're meant to be in the context of a classroom and for your own work. And that is it for now. I was trying to get in under 15 minutes and I've got less than a minute to go. I will say really quick that assignment number 2, this will be our last assignment on Wake. I actually just before recording this had a meeting with Matt and Nicole about our new platform that's called Mural. And we're gonna run it a little bit differently than Wake, but I also think it will be a pretty easy transition. It's similar enough that with just a couple of different like alterations to how we post things, it should be pretty easy to jump on that for assignment number 3. But you're going to find out more about that from Matt. I know that he's going to be doing a tutorial, I think next week, to sort of gear everyone up for that transition that we really won't have to worry about until the end of October. So you'll have a little time to get your feet wet and get a handle on that platform before we're posting work on it in this class. But really, folks, that's all I got for you for now. I sincerely hope that everyone is doing great. I had such a blast reading everyone's assignments, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. So you'll hear more from me next week. Okay, take it easy. Bye.